Have you ever wondered what our top most listened to episodes are of the Divorce Etc. podcast in season 2? Well, today is your lucky day because that's exactly what we're talking about and exactly what you're going to get from today's episode. We are the exEXPERTS, Jessica and TH. We focus on helping you navigate your divorce and successfully move on with your life. Please follow us on all social media at exEXPERTS and check out exexperts.com for tons of free divorce related resources. And today we are going to be doing a roundup of our most listened to episodes from season 2 because we have a lot of amazing episodes out there and you may not have heard all of them. So we want to make sure that even if you haven't, you have the chance to get an idea a little bit more from us about, who the guests are and what kind of amazing advice you're going to get.
So in the season 2 wrap up, just to give you guys some idea of the themes, I mean, by far, it was all about divorcing a narcissist, dealing with difficult people, moving on from a difficult relationship, trauma, recovery, really focus on self, which is really, really important because that's what you need in order to move forward. And then also the most common mistakes men and women make. So we're going to get into all of this right now. Let's start with our top 5, our 5th most popular episode of season 2 right now.
Right. So season 2, episode 11, and the title was Most Common Mistakes of Men and Women in Divorce. We had 2 guests for this podcast episode, John Knocklinger and Christina Previtt, who happen to be law partners in Jersey. And having a man and a woman guest talk about the most common mistakes of men and women was a really great conversation, and actually was very enlightening, because some of the mistakes that you might assume or attribute to women making were really mistakes that they see more coming from men and vice versa. And I just thought it was a really eye-opening episode.
I did too, but I want to even step back because John mentioned it really comes down to cultural training. So it's really, the who makes more money in the relationship. And because that happens to be a man, then there are certain mistakes that the breadwinner might make over, the other spouse. And then just because of culture, it ends up being a man versus a woman. Also, women are more accustomed to talking about things.
Right.
Women are trained to talk about it. They're more comfortable talking to their girlfriends, a therapist, a coach, anybody really. I've seen a lot of women just could literally talk to a wall. And men are not comfortable doing that. So it's the way that we have been trained in our society. So it's not a man's fault that he's uncomfortable talking about their feelings and digging deep, as opposed to just going and not dealing with it and having a beer.
Yeah.
This is how our society has kind of set us up to deal with things. Women are emotional. Guys are not. Women are a pain in the ass. Guys are not. But why are guys
about
not?
that? But
no, but we get it. We get into all of this, but I love the fact that he brought up cultural training.
Yes, and
So
it
take a
is
step
true.
back on why things are the way they are, and maybe cut a little slack for your students.
Maybe, but I mean, what it really came down to, and we've talked about this a million times, which is the importance of having a therapist when you're going through a divorce and not using your lawyer as your therapist. And every divorce lawyer will tell you that they have many clients who do that. And at the end of the day, it sucks, because if you had a therapist, you would be paying your therapist far less an hour than you're paying your lawyer. I just thought it was so interesting that John said that more men make the mistake that your lawyer isn't your therapist. Although, to your point, TH, more men are less likely to seek therapy. So maybe that's why they don't have another outlet to go to.
That's exactly right.
But he also, and he also said, not surprisingly, another mistake that men make is that they don't have a support system around them like women do.
That's cultural training. So if you can get past why she's doing this and why he's doing that, just look at the circumstances and not put a label on it so much. The differences were more behavior driven than whether it was a man or a woman. It just happens to fall into a man or a woman's
Yeah.
role because of where they stood in their marriage and in life, and what their role was in their family. If she took care and raised the kids and he went to work, then those are your jobs that you've been trained to do. And so when everything gets shaken up, like, holy crap, what do I do now? I have the kids on Wednesday and every other weekend. I go to work every day and I come home, or vice
Yeah.
versa. I have the kids all the time. What am I going to do without the kids? So
Right.
this is a
But
great, great, great episode for everybody to really take a listen to.
totally. And like speaking of the whole, everything around, alimony and stay at home moms and things like that, like part of the discussion focused on that. And like I thought it was really interesting that Christina said one of the biggest mistakes she sees primarily from women is them saying they're not going to get a job so that they can maximize the alimony that they're going to get. Although we were talking, like, I don't understand why they wouldn't want to be self-sufficient. Why would they want to have to rely on the person that they're so unhappy with?
Because they're not
They're going to
looking at
be
it that way.
divorced.
They're not looking at it that way. It's for like revenge. It's like, you know what? I'm going to make them pay. This is the life I've become accustomed
Yeah,
to.
but
He
sometimes
wants
they're not going to
out.
get the, yeah, but then sometimes they don't get the amount that they were hoping for. Now they've like
Agreed.
self-sabotaged their own
A
situation
hundred
by
percent.
saying like, I'm going to show him and I'm not going to get a job, which is like
But
kind of, and by
that's,
the way, what if the guy gets hit by a car tomorrow?
oh,
Now all of a sudden, I know, I'm just saying, like, that was part of the conversation. That was what part of what John was saying. Like, women a lot of times make the mistake of not making good use of the time or the money in which they get spousal maintenance. And like,
right.
you can never predict the future. So your stance should not be I'm going to show him by not getting a job. Your stance should be I'm going to get a job and be self-sufficient, and everything else that comes in is just gravy or money that I can put away towards retirement or whatever the case may be. So
Right. But that's emotions versus rational
right,
thinking.
exactly.
And if you've been scorned, whether you're the man or the woman, you just, back to what you said initially, like, you need a therapist, you have to
Yeah,
get things in
right,
check. And by the way, the purpose of support is temporary, to support you until you get on your feet.
right,
It's
right.
not a lifetime
Not
allowance.
anymore, it's not, that's for
No,
sure.
it's not.
Right.
And it's not anyway. Even lifetime ends
Although
when someone retires. So
one
it's
of
not for the rest of your life.
one of the things that was great that you guys will love as part of this episode, which I thought was really fucking brilliant, was when we were talking about the idea of how a lot of women feel like they're the underdogs because they may have had like great educations and great backgrounds and great high powered careers that they leave to go raise their family. So they're giving up a number of high employability years in order
Yeah.
to raise the family, and the idea is that women in that situation should definitely have a prenup, or if they've been married for, let's say, 5 years and then they decide that she's going to leave her job, at that moment they should get a postnup that states if they ever get divorced, he is going to pay her X amount of money per year, starting with the year that she gave up her job,
Yeah,
which I
that was
thought was
brilliant.
so brilliant
Yeah.
because these women are like, well, I haven't worked in the last 20 years. And like, okay, maybe they can go out and get a job now, but in theory, they could have had all of this income coming in all this time that they gave up. So someone's like should try to make up for it.
So you guys should really be sure to tune into season 3,
Yes.
because we
Yes.
talk all about that very topic with Andrea Vaca. So be sure to check in on season 3. So we're not going to give up any more of this
Okay,
episode because we
okay.
really
Yes,
want you
we
to
really
listen to
love
it.
that episode. That was a great.
Yeah,
And by the
yeah.
way, that was an amazing one, and that was only our 5th highest rated episode.
That's
So
right. Wait till you hear the
moving
rest of
on,
them.
moving on to our 4th highest rated episode of season 2 was episode 38, and the title was "The One Thing You Can Control During Divorce" with Jennifer Lazor, who, fun fact,
So she was the second in command in my legal team. And she was honestly the only voice of reason I had in my legal team, as far as the lawyers are concerned. And so I really wanted to revisit and have a podcast with her because she was strong and effective without being a bulldog, and literally fighting every single thing. So I really like her delivery. So she's someone you should check out anyway. But my divorce, I felt like I had no control. I felt like I was being dragged through the court. Um, and I am blaming him because I couldn't negotiate with him. And that'll lead to our next episodes that we're going to talk about. But what I could control and I did control was me and how I responded to things and how I processed things so that I could make better decisions and not just have a knee jerk reaction and make potentially, detrimental decisions as far as my negotiation and my ultimate settlement was concerned. And having a therapist will be a common theme through this whole recap of our top 5 from season 2. It is the only way that I did that. So you can't control the process and you cannot control the other party. And my personal feeling is you can't really control your lawyer either. You give them everything and you hope that they take it and they make magic with it. But you're not controlling what they're saying to the judge, what they're saying to the other lawyer, what they're doing to help you get to where you want to be. So start with yourself. This is an episode, a must listen to episode for everybody.
And what I also loved, I mean, I always love a good list. And she gave a great list of the actual things that you really can control. She talks about how you don't want to surrender your control to the judicial system. So you can control the information you can control the information you have, you can control the tone, and you can control your emotions so that you are in a state to make the right decisions. And I love that she talks about, because Teach is so right. Like, many people will find themselves caught up in a divorce process where the other person is making everything more difficult, and you really can't control the length of time that the negotiations are going on, and you may not be able to control whether or not you have to litigate. Like, you may be being led down a path by your soon to be ex. But what Jennifer talked about was, even if you have to litigate, you actually can set the tone for your litigation. If you feel like all it is a bunch of nasty letters going back and forth, she says you should check your bill to see how much you're paying for that. And she says that your lawyer can receive letters in a tone like that, but it does not mean that your lawyer has to reply the same way. So you're never going to be able to know for sure what they're saying when you're not there. But she talks about, you have the right to decide if you're comfortable with the message that the tone your lawyer is sending. And that is in your control. There are oftentimes you're going to get so caught up in it that it's like you feel like it's beyond your control. It's already been so long, and this is how the tone of it has been, and you don't ever feel like you can reset it. But her message overall was like, this has to be a conversation that you have with your lawyer in the beginning. And so many of us don't know that, and we don't realize that. And so we kind of let our lawyers take the lead, and we are being pushed in a certain direction by our ex. And the truth is, if you and your lawyer feel like you're in a partnership together, that comes from your initial interviews. We talk all about that in other episodes of the Divorce Etc. podcast, but you need to feel like you have that comfort level so that you can have the tone, at least coming from your side, that you are comfortable with through your process. I thought, and she was
honestly,
awful.
you might not know that at first, because I definitely didn't know that at first, but we had a 4-year relationship, and I would say like halfway through, I started to, like, I don't know, grow some muscle in my brain and my confidence and start to speak up and realize the tone wasn't good. When you're first going in it, you don't know what the fuck is happening. You're kind of just stuck in a wind tunnel, and you're following this person who you just paid a ton of money to like protect you from the wind. But when you're not in a position of fear so much anymore, and you've grown some legs and some experience, then you might be in a better place. So I don't fully agree I think that's ideal at the beginning, but it may not happen till you're kind of in it, so that you can kind of get your legs steady, and then you can say, okay,
Right.
all right, this is actually not what I want. So
I
it's
mean,
hard to figure that out.
the overall, I think, like, key takeaway that you're going to get from listening to this episode from Jennifer is that you can always control your knowledge. And it's on you to be prepared and to find out the information that you need. Don't go into it blindly. Don't just think that because your lawyer's done this before that you don't have to read the documents or you don't need to like
Right.
know what's going on, because you will feel a much greater sense of control if you are in the process, an involved participant in the process.
Yeah.
And it's a very scary thing, but definitely worth doing. So that
All
was
right. So
episode 38.
we are going to pause here for a quick minute because we know it's hard to get honest and reliable information about your divorce. So we've done the work for you. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter to get experts in your inbox. Join our virtual open house events where you can ask questions to top experts and the two of us, and sign up for private sessions with us so you can move beyond your divorce. You can sign up for all this information at exexperts.com, exexperts.com. We've lived it, so we get it. So now we actually, so we've got 3 episodes left, but it's really 4 based on what we've done. The next
Our
2.
number 3. No.
Okay, our
third,
next. Okay,
our
number
third most
3.
listened to, if we count 2 of them together. This third one is episode 46, season 2, episode 46 with Noelle Houghton. And the title is How to Divorce a Difficult Person. And difficult person is kind of code for someone who is a narcissist or has some type of a, behavioral issue like that, where your divorce process is just going to be totally different than everyone else's. So all I'm going to say first is just the accent. Noelle's accent alone makes the episode worth listening
Makes the
to.
medicine go down a little
She's
easier.
so smart. She's British, and she's a lawyer, and she's a mediator, and she's a divorce coach because she's seen divorce from all sides, and her own experience divorcing a narcissist has then pointed her in this direction to help people through the trauma. TH, what were your thoughts on this?
I mean, I divorced a narcissist. So a lot of it for me definitely kind of validated my experience and made me feel like I wasn't alone. So if for no other reason, even if your soon to be ex is not a legit narcissist, but a difficult person, it's really important to listen to this episode. She's going to teach you how important boundaries are. She is going to remind you that it's not your fault. And the number one thing that was so interesting to me, only because I've already lived it, so it wasn't like new facts for me, difficult people are not always who you're married to. They can be your coworkers. They can be your family members. They could be friends. These are difficult people in your life. So they're not always living in your marriage. It's certainly more difficult when you have to divorce that person. So that's how we get back to divorce here. But what you can learn here is just kind of how to set up boundaries with anybody who feels toxic to you. Because once you've been in a relationship with a narcissist or someone with those tendencies, your gut will be like, oh my God, I feel it again. And it doesn't look like him and it doesn't look like her. It looks like I'm at work and what the fuck? Like, where is this coming from and how do I handle it?
Right.
She really helps you identify and gives you tips on how to handle a difficult person.
And
Great.
I did not come out of a situation where I was divorcing a narcissist, and so I've been very educated, become very educated on the topic over the past year, just because of episodes that we've done, conversations we've had, interviews that we've done, and so I think it's important for everybody to be knowledgeable somewhat about this, because having this information can help you if you have a friend or a loved one who's going through this situation, because
Right.
you'll be able to support them in a better way and in a different way than you would if you knew nothing about this kind of stuff. So
Right.
coming from where I'm coming from, I will say I particularly liked that she's so blunt about how everybody today is using the term narcissist too frequently, and that she will tell her clients outright that their ex is not a narcissist. it could still be a very challenging situation for them, and their ex could still be a difficult person, but they don't necessarily have a personality disorder, which I really think is so important for people to consider. You can't just use the term narcissist
Well,
lightly.
we're going
It's
to
an
get into that in the
actual
next
thing.
episode.
No, I know, but she
The
talked about
details,
that
yeah.
in this episode,
Yeah.
and I think that's a real thing that people need to know about. I also thought that it was really helpful because she gave an actual list of things for people to be looking for and looking at in their own marriages to kind of help identify what it is that they're dealing with. So, like being fearful of expressing yourself, being asked to quiet down, having no freedom to speak out, feeling like you have to silence your own emotions. She gave tangible things that people need to think about and help identify the kind of situation that they're in. So I thought that was really helpful. And then
Wait, hold on. Even
overall,
Jessica just listing those things off like hurts my gut. So if it hurts your gut to hear those things that she just listed off, then I get
then
it.
you should listen to
We get
you should
it.
listen to this episode.
You need to listen to this episode. It's a gift for you.
Right.
Because like the one we talked about, you can't control anybody else. You can't fix anybody. There's no such thing. You can't change people, but you can change the way you react to people. And it's good to think about it in terms of broad terms. I think everybody should really listen to this episode because you're never going to know when you're going to run into somebody like this. You can be like, you know what? I heard this before.
Right.
This is how I'm going to handle this negotiation for work. This is how I'm going to handle this parent who I have to carpool with. Like, this is a great tool for you to be able to identify a red flag and be like, holy crap. Okay, let's go.
Right. And look, overall, Noelle's just really helpful in giving tips on exactly what TH is talking about, how to handle communication once you're divorced and need to be co-parenting. And it takes practice. But she has such a good, like, quote unquote, bedside manner that it's really easy to listen to her and to hear her and to be able to follow her advice. So definitely an episode that you need to hear. And if you have even like the slightest question of whether or not you actually are in a situation that you're divorcing a narcissist, then even 10 times more important for you to go hear this episode because it's really incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I mean, she's been through it. So
Yeah.
she's not just giving advice because she thinks she knows better. She
Correct.
actually does know better.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, let's
Moving
move
on.
on to our top
So
2 and 2.5
right,
episodes.
our top 2 and 2. So we did a 2-part series in season 2. They were episodes 57 and 58, and the titles were Narcissist versus Asshole, There Is a Difference, Part 1 and Part 2.
By the way, that's our top chosen title.
Yeah, that's our best
out of
one.
140 plus episodes.
Yeah, we love it so much.
This title is the winner.
For sure. Narcissist versus Asshole, There Is a Difference. And in our cases, TH and I personally, TH divorced a narcissist and I just divorced an asshole. So, this really is very relevant. But anyway, they were episodes 57 and 58. And so again, I know, talking about all the stuff with Noelle, we have some additional points to add here, but this topic, this theme of divorcing a narcissist, identifying a narcissist, and navigating the process with a narcissist and the beyond really hit home to a lot of our community this year. So it was interesting to see that how these our most listened to episodes played out, no pun intended, with 3 out of 5 being about narcissists. And our guest was Ina Hansen. Exactly.
I got to tell you, it was hard for me to listen to it. It was hard for me to go back to part 1 and 2.
Was it hard for you to record it?
No, because I didn't know what she was going to say. And then as soon as she said something, I'm like, oh my God, that was me. That was me. That was him. That was us. Like, I don't really want to be reminded, but I kind of needed to be reminded. And the reason I needed to be reminded is so that I can give myself credit for how far I've come. Not to say God, that like I wasted 4 years of my life. I don't think I wasted any of my life. I think it took me as long as it took me to learn what I learned. But it also shows the magnitude of what I was dealing with. I compartmentalized a lot of it and just kind of got through my life day by day. But like, holy crap, that was a lot. And it was really big. And yay for me. And Ina is, Noel is, and a ton of you out there are shining examples of people who can move on from this. Knowledge is power. I just want to explain that NPD is narcissistic personality disorder. It's a diagnosis, and few narcissists will be diagnosed since it requires the narcissist to actually admit they have emotional issues that they want to resolve. That is not a characteristic of a
Right. It's
narcissist.
totally counterintuitive to who they
That's
are as a
right.
person.
That's right. That's right. But she really gets into identifying it. She gets into the nitty gritty of it, how it affects your health, how it affects your brain function, like real gaslighting. She gets into it. And then in part two, we really focus on the recovery of it and the small steps you can take towards healing. And again, the message is that you will be okay. Why is it important to know this? Because you were subject to some relationship that was very traumatic. And I know for me, I don't ever want to be in that relationship again. So I need to know. I need to know so I can see things differently and I can help myself heal so I'm not drawn back into those bad, very, very toxic patterns.
Yeah, I mean, I again, not coming from that place, it was just very informative, and I think that it's important for people to hear, even if you think that's not where you're coming from, because you know someone who's there or who has been there, that you need to know to be able to help them handle what they're dealing with. Um, I would be remiss if I didn't start off with, like, first of all, like, again, the title, Narcissist versus Asshole, the best. I love that Ina broke down a lot of the differences between narcissists and assholes and basically said that narcissists are empty sleeves, which I thought was a great description. Um, I love that she has a checklist of questions that she goes through with her clients. And she actually goes through a bunch of them in this episode, which can really give anybody listening a tangible list of things to be asking and answering and can put you in a position of knowledge so that you know how to move forward. So the actionable tips that you're getting out of these episodes is really worth it. Some of the things that I felt like were sort of hard to listen to were she was explaining how one of the biggest differences is how a narcissist will, quote, discard you after a fight and ignore you and eventually come back like nothing happened. And then
Right.
to TH's point, talking about like how your brain function is, like, it was very interesting to hear her talk about that when you're in a narcissistic relationship, you can actually experience trauma to your brain. That hit hard to listen to. Um, but then we go through the recovery and what people can do to kind of move on and move past it and be able to use the knowledge that they have to empower them to move forward in a better way without making the same choices. And I love that she gave tips like, don't give in to the drama, because your reaction is what they're looking for and what they thrive on.
Yeah,
So
it's fuel. You're
right.
fueling the fire, and the only person getting hurt is you.
Right. So
That's
she
it.
she says, if you're in a situation where you haven't actually left yet, you're thinking about getting divorced. Ina says, if you know you want to leave and you're trying to get your ducks in a row, it's helpful to start pulling back and just be giving yes or no type answers and the like, so that they don't have anything to feed off of.
Right.
So,
Not
and
engaged.
that's right. And that is going to be really helpful for you when you actually are going through the process, because engaging or not engaging is what throws people in that process and what makes the process so much more difficult for like the non-narcissist in the
Right.
situation.
So before we get to our top listened to episode of season 2, I just want to mention that we have monthly open house events, which means we bring in 3 experts, the divorce professionals and beyond related around a certain topic. We actually did an event this past year called Divorcing a
Yeah, it
Narcissist,
was
right?
Divorcing
Wasn't
a
that our
Narcissist.
title?
Yep.
And oh my God. And we also had Bradley Richardson on there. He was married to a female narcissist. Not all narcissists are men. Most are, but not all. And we do these types of events around these really impactful, important topics. How do I pay for my divorce? What kind of divorce is right for me? To date or not to date? Family matters and co-parenting. And so coming up in January, we have an event about, okay, I'm getting a divorce. Where do I begin? Now what?
Right.
So make sure you check in with exexperts.com. Follow us on all of our social media. These events give you an opportunity to ask questions live to the paid professionals who you can't access easily for a quick, I got
That's
a
right.
question here. I got a question there. We have brought them together for you because we know how important it is for you to be properly educated. So stay tuned for that.
Definitely. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Our most
Dun-dun-dun.
highly rated episode of season 2 was episode 60. The title was How to Find Hidden Money in Divorce. I
You
think that was
already know
probably
why
my
it's number one,
right. I was
right?
gonna say that's
Like
probably
everyone's
my
like, there's
second
got to be
favorite
hidden
title.
treasure here
That's
somewhere.
right. How to
I
find
want a
hidden
hidden
money in
treasure.
divorce. So
Yeah.
our guest was Melissa Gregg, a valuation expert, and she is such a badass. I mean,
She is.
she brought up so many great points in this episode. First of all, everybody needs to listen to this because everybody needs to know what their financial situation is, and nobody wants to leave money on the table, right? So,
Right.
I thought that she had an amazing list of points that everybody needs to hear, including when one spouse is more in the dark about the finances and maybe thinks they have a lot more money than they really have, because this is a really important thing. Your spouse may have a business that has, like, deals with a lot of things in cash, and like you may be living a lifestyle way beyond your means and you're not aware of that. You may have credit card debt that you aren't clued into, and so if that's going on and you're not aware of it, you're going to be apt to be like, well, in this divorce, I'm going to get this and I'm going to do this. And you're planning in your head for what your future is going to look like financially. And you really could be way off. And so if your life is being financed by credit cards and there, like I said, maybe a lot of
Or
debt,
even being financed with cash.
well, if you're being
Like
financed with cash, then you actually have the cash. But I'm talking
you have the
about, like,
cash, but you can't
if you're
track it.
if you're
It's
that's
not as easy.
well, right. That okay, so for sure in that regard as well. But I just mean like the perspective where she has a lot of people come in and they think that they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they're going on these elaborate vacations and they live in, like,
Yeah.
a huge house and whatever it is, and they have all these cars and they are expecting her to find all of this hidden money. And sometimes she'll just be, I like that she's realistic about, look, you don't want to want to pay me to track down stuff that I'm already telling you doesn't exist, as
Right.
opposed to her saying, let me look down every crack and crevice and spend whatever money you do have left on this. Like, she's very pragmatic about it.
Yeah. And she's usually comes into the process through your attorneys. She also holds a neutral position. Her job is to find hidden money anywhere for anybody involved in this divorce process. She also, another really important reason to listen to this episode, she talks about key red flags that she will find when uncovering a dirty financial situation.
Yep.
So you are going to want to hear that episode of what those red flags are and make sure they are not you. Look, again, like we say so many times, there's the business side of divorce and the emotional side of divorce. Let the business side be the rational side of it. If something doesn't feel right and you're thinking about this happened and that happened, it doesn't, the dots don't connect financially, then get to the reason how they could connect, or a reason why. Why don't they connect? Educate yourself, get the information that you need, and then make smart decisions with the people who have done hundreds of divorces and handled hundreds of business valuations, because you could say, I know there's money, I know there's money, but by the time you spend all the money looking for that little amount of hidden money, you're out of money.
Right.
So you need to really listen,
Right.
especially as a neutral party comes in. She's not for one or the other side. She's on an investigative mission to tell you the facts.
That's right.
And you need to be in a position, like Jennifer Lazor said, to listen to the information.
Right.
So don't get caught up in a massive search for something that's not there.
And she really talked about how she can actually find all the nuggets because there's always a way to trace things if you know where to look. And you guys, this woman knows where to
She
look.
knows.
I felt like she was so reassuring that if I had needed her as part of my divorce process, I would have felt that I was in very capable hands and that I would have trusted
Totally.
her. If she said to me, there is no hidden money, I would have trusted her.
Yeah.
So for everybody out there, like, this is definitely an episode you have to hear because, again, you know, if you think that something doesn't feel right or doesn't sound right or isn't sitting with you right, you know, in the course of your divorce, then you're going to want to look into someone like Melissa who can help you find hidden money if there is any. So
And really, another common theme that we talk about is educating yourself. So, if you have been in your marriage and you have not been a part of the financial conversation, then educate yourself before you're so convinced that there's hidden money.
that's
And
right.
look, I want you to find hidden money. I want you to find, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but I want you to be educated on what's really there and not be going on a wild goose chase and wasting your energy instead of putting it to a better purpose. That's
Yeah.
all.
But listen to Melissa because she talks about the places that she can find it. She talks about the ways that she tracks it down. She gives you things to like be aware of. So it's a really practical episode with a lot of great information that you're going to want to be able to use through your divorce process. So those are our top 5/6 most listened to episodes of season 2 of the Divorce Etc. podcast. And if you are enjoying the Divorce Etc. podcast, if there have been any episodes that you've heard where you've gotten information that's been really helpful and useful to you, then please help us out by subscribing, rating, and reviewing. Because when you do that, that actually helps us to get the word out to more people and be able to support more people like you who really need it, which is ultimately our goal. So we are so glad to be able to keep bringing you. Oh, TH has something to say.
I was just going to say season 3 is filled with even more experts. Like, we jumped on season 3 so soon. We've got you covered until the end of April with fantastic experts, awesome events, Instagram lives, TikToks with
Just
tips,
a ton of new
Divorce Tip
content.
Tuesday. We've got a great amount of information coming your way in the new year. So
Yep.
please look out for it all. And you can always DM us or email us at hello@exexperts.com.
Check out the show notes so you can see the complete list of the episodes that we've gone through today in the roundup. And of course, share the Divorce Etc. podcast and all of exEXPERTS with anyone you know who can benefit from listening. Have a great day.